Alright ladies and gents, I've heard the calls. You want me to take a look at the Payday Iceberg from the perspective of someone who spent countless hours researching the story of the game, and who went back in time a couple of weeks ago to see what it was like at launch again. Icebergs have been pretty popular within fandoms recently, especially for ones with a history as storied as Payday 2. Essentially, as we dig down through the layers, we'll be talking about more and more obscure secrets known to only small subsections of the community. Hopefully, I can offer some fresh insights, but credit where it's due, this is VeggieBLT's Iceberg 3.0, which is probably the most thorough one out there for Payday, and a prior version of this iceberg has been well covered by a channel named Barfield, who seems to be doing all sorts of interesting icebergs, including a Dead by Daylight one, so check out their channel too. Also, if you're looking for a new PC to play Payday 2 or other painfully demanding games on, I have just the offer for you. Follow the link below to check out my exclusive line of Apex gaming PCs, from the hardcore heister to the king amongst thieves. A purchase of one of these monsters will absolutely prepare you for the impending launch of Payday 3, especially if you're looking to make that switch over to PC gaming. All that said, let's dive into the regular Dallas tier. These are all fairly surface level secrets if you've been around the Payday 2 community for some time, so let's start off with the two Hoxtons in Hox Out. This is referring to the Hoxton paradox, where after you've played Hoxton Breakout for the first time to unlock the character, it's possible to play through the heist as Hoxton whilst also rescuing Hoxton, meaning more Hoxton than anyone bargained for. Dancing animations are referring to the classic Hoxhood Easter egg, the original Overkill approved mod. By typing Hoxdelicious, all civs on the map would break out into a flash mob style dance, including the pole dance animation, which led to some pretty deviant behaviour in public. The giant toothbrush and Almir's toast are two in-game lootable objects and in-jokes within Overkill. The toothbrush was added to Panic Room in reference to Uberhaxer Nova's excitement at seeing what was, in hindsight, a relatively normal sized toothbrush during a Payday the Heist play session with the creatures. Almir's Toast is a similar dev joke, which seems to have originated from Almir Listo, the producer on Payday 2, and his genuine love for the snack, which could first be found as a rare loot on the White Christmas job. Pro jobs will be recognisable to anyone who's played Payday 2 at launch or watched my video heading back to Update 1. These were variants of heists which could not be restarted, either manually or after failure, meaning you could fail a Day 3 heist and be left without the real reward. A cool concept, as pro jobs rewarded you more on eventual completion, but over time, very few people saw the purpose of taking that risk when leveling, and so pro jobs were removed. Overdrill is a widely known Payday secret which even plays an important role in the game's lore. It was found in Payday the Heist's first World Bank level and was discovered as part of Overkill's secret ARG. Initially it involved a 2-hour-long drilling session, so just be happy that the version we received for Payday 2's FWB rendition was only 30 minutes. What you may not know is that those who rushed to complete Overdrill first were not only immortalized in-game, they were also given access to Payday 2's beta version first. Somehow, I don't see Overkill taking the same approach with the upcoming Payday 3, but we can always hope. The TF2 sentry in the train heist was added in the Armored Transport DLC. Many of you caught onto this one during the story series. As you can tell, the loot model is the Engineer's Level 1 sentry from Team Fortress 2, and the ammunition is marked by his class icon. This model was later found on Henry's Rock, which confirms that the mercs in TF2 were actually Murky Water mercs and the arch enemies of the Payday gang. Probably. MF Stev is a bit of an odd one. It's a name first alluded to on the Armored Transport train heist on a clipboard in the garage. Here he's called MF Steve. It later reappeared in an achievement on the Alesso heist and was the name of the pyrotechnician who you usually send to the Shadow Realm, heartless as you are. I have no idea on the origins of this one. Next is the 7-day heist, which early on were rumoured to be coming to the game post-launch, seeing as this was the maximum day count shown during pre-planning. It only made sense to people that Overkill planned to extend heist to this point in the future. This was however shot down as the devs asserted that 7-day heist simply took too long to complete and would have been pretty cumbersome to play through. In fact, Overkill have gone further in the opposite direction over time, focusing on more polished single-day experiences, so the odds of a 7-day heist coming in the future are slim to non-existent. Every mask is personalized is a little jab at the original Super Mario 64 Iceberg, and its every copy of the game is personalized secret. Of course, the odds of your custom design mask actually being unique are surprisingly slim, given we're forced to use set patterns, materials, and colours. Maybe Payday 3 will give us true personalization options, so this one comes true. Houston is Dallas's brother should be a well-known fact for anyone who's taken interest in the storyline of Payday. Give the live-action series a watch, and that's all the evidence you'll need. Even if he was known as Hoxton back then, but that's an even longer story. The Crime Fest fiasco refers to Crime Fest of 2015, one of the most anticipated annual events for Payday 2 at the time. This series of updates was teased to the heavens and everyone was excited for it, completing challenges along the way. Only for day 1 to reveal the release of weapon skins obtained via safes, which you needed to drill into, TF2 or CSGO style. In other words, Overkill added microtransactions just a couple of years after stating no such thing would ever come to Payday. To make matters worse, some of these skins came with unique stat boosts that could give exclusive advantages to the highest paying players. This was seen as a massive betrayal by most in the community, launching an impromptu boycott and even review bombing the game. Overkill were quick to respond and have done so in the right way over the years. The microtransactions are very much so gone, but some people will always retain sour memories of Overkill, briefly going full EA. The Ballad of Bobblehead Bob refers to the reoccurring background character of Bob, a civilian in the Payday world who is responsible for the mass production of the Kawaii Dozer bobblehead range. He's first seen as a major character in the Big Bank trailer, before later reappearing in crutches after his nasty fall in the Hoxton Breakout trailer. Bobblehead Bob, as he would be named after the backing Bobblehead Bob achievement, would then be spotted all over Payday media, eventually becoming an accessory to the gang as Jimmy's personal bartender. On to Tier 2, Train Heist's explosive ammo is referring to how the ammo loot type worked at launch. Instead of acting as a normal throwable loot option, any action that launched the bags a reasonable distance would set them off, causing them to dramatically explode and often ruining attempts of the heist. The train heist was really weird in 2013, it could only be accessed as a special day 2 of normal armoured transport hits, and probably stands as one of the hardest stealth heists ever released, at least at launch. As for the Kataru, you guys should know all about them. They're the main antagonist group of Payday 2, led in modern times by the Dentist with the assistance of Kento and the Murky Water Company. The Ancient Alliance has fallen into disarray as of the events of Payday 2, with the Dentist struggling for power against other ex-members such as the Elephant and even Vlad Kozak himself. The Almian Mask is one of the rarest masks in the game, although Overkill gave partner content creators codes to give out a few months back. Originally, it was released in conjunction with the gacha-styled Payday keychain merch, which ran into some distribution difficulties. This meant that only those closely involved in Payday 2's development could gain access to the exclusive in-game mask until the extra codes were distributed. Election Day Plan C being on here surprises me. There are literal achievements involving this mechanic on the Election Day heist. Basically, if you tag the wrong truck on day 1, you'll be unable to rig the voting machines in advance and have to commit more direct voter fraud in the form of a faux bank robbery on a different day 2. This is a fun, loud heist to try out if you've missed out on it in the past. Counterfeit stealth refers to an old AI exploit on the counterfeit heist originally popularized by Mark MB. It involved creatively placing a body bag to distract the responder AI and place the mission in a permanent stealth state. This let you print all the cash you could ever want to farm infamy without having to hold off waves of cops, an AFK farming method which was not really in the spirit of the game, so Overkill have patched this out at a second attempt of doing so. The cop clone army theory comes from a little Easter egg on Big Bank's stock market reel. It references a cop cloning company, which seems to imply that the technology is out there to clone law enforcement, hence the ridiculous ways of cops we engage with in-game. Of course, this was predominantly a joke by Overkill, but with Hardcore Henry being canon in-game, it's not too much of a stretch to believe. The web series was an integral part of my Story of Payday series. It was a 6-episode miniseries airing in 2013 to advertise the release of Payday 2, fleshing out the world of Payday and leaving us all thirsting for a Payday movie one day. Give it a watch if you haven't already. The diesel engine problems are about as storied as the lore of this crazy game by this point. Payday 2 was built on a somewhat archaic engine which struggled to support all of its systems, especially as it expanded from roughly 10 times its original size in terms of content. Diesel's limitations have prevented Overkill from moving the series forward at times, and are really the main contributor to the game's instability today. Bring on Unreal for Payday 3. Crime War is an upcoming Payday-based competitive shooter on mobile. It spent years in development purgatory despite its limited release after the original publisher disbanded. The game is now being published by mobile developer PopReach, with their team looking to further develop the game, working towards a planned release in late 2021 or early 2022. Watch my video on the subject if you want to hear more. Chains is in a pickle was an infamous Bane line delivered by Bane whenever Chains went down. Its slightly light-hearted tone led to it developing into somewhat of a meme, spawning an in-game mask and even a song performed by Chains' own voice actor, Damien Poitier. The Payday poster in Hardcore Henry is exactly what it sounds like. In honor of the film's promotion in-game, the original cover poster can be glimpsed briefly during this scene. The COP pack is a $20 DLC released during the Hype Train event. The Completely Overkill pack, as it was named, accompanied the Overkill pack's minigun and RPG as an exclusive way to support the devs' plans and earn some exceptionally rare mass in the process, as only 50,000 copies were made available. A future secret reward was also mentioned, which turned out to be a weapons safe released during the Peak Crime Fest fiasco months. So as you can imagine, that went down poorly, and Overkill scrambled to add more exclusive mega mass to increase its perceived value. The duplication glitch has been around since time itself and is another Diesel quirk. If you and another player interact with an inventory item simultaneously, you will both receive it to use later on. Keycard duping in particular used to be common on heists like Hoxton Breakout. Jacket having 3 hands is more of a community joke than a secret. As we know, he communicates with his tape recorder, but how does he press play on it when both hands are clearly in view? Video game logic, eh? The Payday mask in John Wick is another high-profile reference from a movie tie-in. The first Wick film features the masks of Chains and Wolf on background posters. The old meth formula is one I was reacquainted with when I went back to Update 1. Basically, prior to Update 89, Bane's instructions couldn't always be trusted and you need an encyclopedic knowledge of his voice lines to actually know which compound you should be adding to the meth cooking process. The infinite skill point glitch was a fun one added and shortly removed after Update 100. With the skill point system changing, Overkill had allowed Cable Guy to fill 2 slots, meaning you could buy one and receive both. Refunding the extra skill retained those points, allowing us to theoretically have every skill in the game without installing some dodgy hack. Clover's hair physics are insane. Diesel has once again found that it struggles with jiggle bones, and as a result, expect your screen to occasionally be filled with Clover's hair clipping across the entire map. Ricochet miniguns will be touched on later with the 2017 April Fool's update. Achievement drills refer to the few weapon skin drills and safes you could obtain during limited time events back before the drills were removed completely. You may wonder why Vlad has us stealing that Mark Pig on Slaughterhouse. Well, now it's just an achievement, but at launch it was also a free cosmetic skin to get you hooked on that microtransaction dopamine. The long guide is my best friend when delving deep into the mechanics of Payday 2. It's a comprehensive guide to every imaginable system in-game, and if you have a spare weekend, give it a cover-to-cover read on the Steam Guides page. Shotgun pellet damage refers to the unique way in which shotguns function in Payday 2. Instead of each pellet dealing a fraction of the weapon's max damage, they each carry the full damage potential of the weapon. This has led to shotguns dominating many a meta over time, as accuracy is really not advised with this forgiving damage mechanic. Recently, shotguns have been targeted relentlessly with nerfs, so they're not quite as powerful as they once were. Hotline Miami's Day 2 fire glitch is well known at this point. Basically, when the chopper shoots and sets the penthouse alight, instead of turning on the sprinkler system, it's generally better to fix the drill through the fire damage, as it prevents cops from entering that area themselves. The patient in the No Mercy heist does indeed show signs of becoming a smoker from Left 4 Dead. Over the course of taking his blood samples, he will start to look more like the enemy type, and even makes the same idle sounds. This isn't a huge surprise when we remember that No Mercy is one huge Left 4 Dead tie-in. We're getting much deeper now, starting with the Payday Text Adventure, a text-based Payday game which can still be played, telling a pretty interesting story in the process. Check it out from the link in the description if you didn't get a chance to try it out when it released. Easy difficulty in Payday the Heist refers to the few times easy was even an option in the Payday franchise. Starting heists like First World Bank and Heat Street can be cleared on easy, which is still probably a harder mode than normal in Payday 2. The missing Baby Driver DLC is a tough one to take and even believe. Baby Driver is probably my second favourite movie of all time, second only to the masterpiece that is In Bruges. Crazily, it's been confirmed that the heisting movie was due to have a Payday tie-in by directing legend Edgar Wright. Sadly, the movie released 2 months early and the theme DLC was canned, likely due to a lack of perceived relevancy by the time the in-game content was complete. My heart genuinely breaks for this one. Cams controlling police activity is a little Payday franchise throwback. In Payday the Heist, destroying cameras could actually make you harder to track by the AI. Moving into Payday 2, confirmation bias led to players claiming that this mechanic persisted, but let's be honest, it's just bad AI pathing. The Hell's Island jump was a skip that could be performed to avoid the key drilling section on certain runs. This was patched out last year though, so don't try to replicate it. The classic heist time paradox is something I've been struggling with lore-wise for years. Some heists are confirmed to be repeats from Payday the Heist, others just seem to be happening for the first time, which is why I've pretty much considered the runs of Slaughterhouse and Panic Room from Payday 2 to be flashback type events. If not, how could Hodgson's fingerprints have been found in Panic Room leading to his arrest? A massive plot hole if we don't suspend our disbelief here. Star VR was a massive project by Payday rights owner Starbreeze as they attempted to expand rapidly and get in early to the VR craze. The headset they made, a version of which can be found as a mask in-game, was technically pretty excellent, but retailed at over $3,000, so economically, it was another baffling move leading us to where we are today. The heist ahead perspective is a funny one. It's another of the diesel engine's quirks, meaning if we get close to NPCs, nothing about their head size makes any sense with the visual context of your own arms. Yet another secret in this Iceberg, which I familiarized myself with recently, the old tier bonuses, were really the progenitors for the modern day per deck system. They were extra skills you'd obtain for spending a certain number of points on a tree and often revolved around increased survivability. The Dentist's age is a complete unknown and major plot point for this story. The author mentions somewhere around 800 years. I'd say in-game it's implied that the dentist and his fellow kings have lived for many more centuries than that. From events like the burning of the White House, we know for a fact that he's lived an inhuman lifespan. Jacket's stolen identity refers to the improbability of him being the original Jacket from the Hotline Miami universe, especially with how the sequel ends. All of this was left unclear, although Overkill staff have insisted in the past that he is the real Jacket, likely to push sales of the DLC. There is evidence that he may just be a crazed fan. The Payday 2 runs on a racing engine statement should really be higher up in my opinion. I hear this all the time, and of course it's loosely true, bearing in mind Ballistics, the first Diesel title, was a racing game of sorts, but I'd argue that isn't what's holding the Diesel engine back a whole 20 years later. The Wordsmith, or Overkill Wordsmith, is the absolute legend who rescued the Payday storyline and turned it into something truly unique. It would be fair to say it had gone off the rails, with time material overshadowing any sort of consistent narrative after the Golden Grin Casino. But somehow, Wordsmith came on board to turn things around and create a story worth following, despite the few plot holes which come from different narrative directors working on it. Clover helping during Hoxton Breakout is another subtle lore point brought to light by the evidence boards in Hoxton Revenge. This was a bit of retroactive storytelling, as Clover herself wasn't actually released until a few months after the breakouts occurred. Hoxton's multiple actors refers to just how many people have been involved in bringing Hoxton to life over the years. He's been portrayed by Richard Blom, Josh Len, and even a mystery masked man in the Hardcore Henry trailers. All whilst Pete Gold led his voice to every single portrayal. Bane vapes. Yep, he sure does. I think if you've watched the web series, you'll be well aware of this one. Car shop rushing is not something that can be done, even with ECMs. However, if the gang just brought along one extra C4 for the door to the keys, they could easily walk in and drive out, seeing as all the subterfuge is unnecessary when we blow up the pavement anyway. The pen is a secret melee which was accessible via a webpage during the Search for Kento event. Nothing crazy here, it's actually a pencil and probably a subtle John Wick reference. You can still obtain it via the social media safe, link to which is also below. The minigun speed boost is another infamous and now patched Payday 2 glitch. When Overkill removed the movement speed penalty from LMGs and the minigun, they failed to alter the minigun attachments, which already existed to adjust the penalty manually. As a result, using the stubby minigun, we could run incredibly quickly until they patched out our fun. Henry's Rock being Hangar 51 was never actually confirmed, but the map is undoubtedly set out in an uncannily similar fashion to the secret storage area from the film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Senator Mario in a top hat's name can be seen in the FBI Files trailer. It is of course Overkill's little homage to the popular creator of the Payday PSAs, who you should check out from the link below. The April Fool's Ricochet, which I believe is also referring to the Ricochet miniguns from earlier, was a one-day event for April Fool's 2017, when Overkill also joked we were getting an Ethan Klein heister pack. This was undoubtedly the best part of the event, with bouncing rockets and miniguns turning heists into hailstorms. The Overkill HQ real-life police raid refers to an investigation by Swedish authorities into potential insider trading by individuals working within Starbreeze. The officers were effectively raided, with equipment being seized, but as I understand, the investigations ended with a not guilty decision being made. The irony, I'm sure, is not lost on you. The elephant, being the original hardcore Henry contractor, should not come as a massive surprise, especially as he is originally seen contracting Dallas to assist Akan in the trailer. There exists some cut briefing lines recorded by Bokeem Woodbine before Overkill decided to have Jimmy become both a heister and contractor. The Shadow Raid helicopter exploit is hardly even an exploit, it's a mechanic to stop you from being crushed by the chopper when it spawns about 5 minutes into the heist. If you stand on either its spawn locations, the game will automatically choose the other, allowing you to avoid the extra guards if you wish. The $500 Alienware mask is exactly what it sounds like. It's a variation of the Alienware mask which was bundled with the Alienware Alpha PC, a $500 purchase at the least, and now discontinued promotion. Unless you were able to snag this mask through an ultra rare code giveaway, that's what it would have cost you, meaning this is one of the few masks in game that even I don't have. Vlad appearing in the safe house is something that new players may be more aware of than old. Until you complete the Diamond and Golden Grin, he will remain there as an interactable character, after which point he will be replaced by a few of his cupcakes and the Diamond itself, cementing his role in the Payday secret. We're now 4 layers deep, and I'm sure that even veteran players will be learning new things from here on in. Hoxton's real name being Jim is likely not one of them though. This one comes from both the dentist and Dallas calling Hoxton Jim in the live action trailers, making it one of the few heister identities we're pretty certain of. Of course, his real name is more likely to be James Hoxworth if this is the case. Lucy Was Here is a disembodied piece of map text found in a few locations on different heists. This Easter egg was assumedly added by an Overkill level designer as an out-of-bounds signature. The witch's appearance in Safe House Nightmare was the first of many Left 4 Dead references by the Overkill guys. If you interacted with the wrong mask for the selected difficulty, the witch would jump scare you and down you immediately. Dr. Crowbar is a name found on one of the Doctor's lab coats in No Mercy, in reference to Half-Life's Gordon Freeman, yet another Valve reference on this map. The fire damage calculation is not what you think it is. Instead, this Iceberg fact is referring to how on the launch of incendiary weapons in the barbecue pack, each tick of damage would be counted as a kill towards the result screen stats. If only Robocop had existed back then. Trashley's giveaway are actually one of the few factoids here that I am personally unaware of, although I am familiar with the Ashley in question. A Steam forum moderator for Overkill who was involved in community outreach and PR and granted rare codes to give out to the player base. I'm told that their reputation was not brilliant within the wider community, leading to the Trashley nickname, although I've had limited context for this one. Your opinion, my choice, however, I am familiar with. This was an infamous quote by the much maligned ex-Starbreeze CEO, Bo Anderson. It was in reference to the way flashbangs used to work as random and unavoidable screen interruptions, with players asking for the ability to avoid or destroy them as we were eventually given the power to do. At the time though, Bo mocked the community openly in Steam forums, suggesting he had a baby mode for those complaining, and that at the end of the day, it was your opinion, but his choice. PR Management 101. Skulldozers not being fully human is another of those tiny details that is shared outside of the game world. On the FBI Files site, Garrett notes that Skulldozers are drug-enhanced cyber warriors who he sees as not fully human. Basically, they're augmented humans, so again, Payday goes further down the science fiction rabbit hole. Baldwin under the White House is a simple lore point you should be aware of if you've followed the story closely or completed the secret. We find the burned shadow of a corpse within the Ark of the Watcher, which the dentist confirms to be Baldwin, who died at the hands of the pyramid mechanism. Whether he was trying to steal the power of the kings or prevent the dentist from doing so himself is still up in the air. The Nephilim are another important plot point. They are almost certainly the alien race who are responsible for all the otherworldly technology found throughout the storyline. We see them as diminished preserved corpses as well as in old paintings and photographs, wreaking havoc and tearing out hearts. There are even biblical connotations to their name and existence. The electric center drop rate is another previously mentioned secret which led to the pattern becoming an infamous one on Payday 2's full release. Due to a bug in the beta, the electric center was virtually the only card drop reward players would receive, leading to it becoming a community joke which was taken up by the Overkill guys once they fixed the issue. Clover's older voice actress was indeed Bonnie's. Sean and Brennan voiced her during the Payday birthday celebration video before being replaced by Aoife Duffin, likely due to her natural Irish accent making more sense than Brennan's native Scottish one, which was perfectly suited for Bonnie, a character who I'd wager came into existence because Overkill liked Brennan's voice work. The Antisphere Materials Pack is more cut content from a crossover with the game Antisphere. Players who bought Antisphere were given 6 additional mass, but the patterns and materials which were found in the files never made it to the game for some reason. The drill break formula is another interesting piece of Payday 2 long guide trivia. Basically, drills do not break randomly. Outside of being stopped by cops, drills will have set patterns which dictate how effectively they'll run before they're even placed, depending on where they are used. For instance, a breakage at halfway through will guarantee another interruption in the final third of drilling. Random Kenny, one of the co-authors of the long guide, has a brilliantly in-depth video on this topic. The M41A pulse rifle from the Alien series is another long-rumoured piece of crossover content that was likely cut at some point in development. It was discovered after a reload animation named Xeno was added in 2015 with no specified weapon model, but fit the pulse rifle perfectly. Sadly, we never got to see and use this iconic weapon. Shacklethorn Auction is heavily inspired by Lovecraft's short story The Terrible Old Man. This isn't where the allusions to the iconic author's work ends though, with character quotes evoking imagery of other novels such as The Shadow over Innsmouth and The Rats in the Walls. Not to mention that Payday 2's own story features the Dreaming Temple, which is a direct reference to the Cthulhu mythos. The Lone Wolf 4chan conspiracy theory revolves around an anonymous 4chan contributor who only posted alongside wolf images and claimed to be an Overkill insider. He accurately revealed many of the CrimeFest 2015 updates prior to them being officially launched and claimed to be against their edition. Many on the forum started to wonder if this was in fact Ulf Anderson, who had recently parted ways with Overkill, returning to show his dissatisfaction for the direction Payday was heading in. This one is just plain weird. The crew starting 2 apocalypses is an interesting theory to say the least. It assumes that the Payday gang released the green flu in No Mercy, leading to the events of Left 4 Dead, and that if we assume the regular pardon-stealing ending is canon, also left a power-mad lunatic in the dentist in charge of the USA, likely leading to some sort of nuclear outcome. Of course, I assume that the secret ending is canon, so we don't need to worry about that one. And as for the green flu, in Payday 2 it's actually implied that the virus is a different compound and is more of a fast-acting super soldier serum, which led to Bane having short-lived superhuman strength before his cells started to break down. So fortunately, no apocalyptic outcomes. The Lucille Countdown was a promotional campaign Overkill ran to tease some new content coming to Payday 2. This was a little disingenuous, or at least misinterpreted, as the only actual content we received was the Lucille baseball bat, with the reveal actually being for Overkill's Walking Dead game, which as we know went through a tumultuous development cycle from there. The missing hostage rescue units, which used to come between assault waves to disrupt the heisters' plans, have been out of the game for years now. Why exactly, no one really knows, as Bane still mentions the hostage rescue specialists are incoming, and it wasn't as if these guys were massively imbalanced in the game in their brief appearances. Hostages being able to save you is another one of those classic mechanics which has been refined after launch. It used to be the case that hostages could save you from the down state when interacted with if you had the old Stockholm Syndrome perk, but only if they weren't cable tied, making this an impossibly situational skill to use. Now they'll just trade themselves to get you out of custody, which works a little better. The diamond acting as the tip of the golden grain drill is another one of those overkill writing inconsistencies. In the storyline, which was added before the narrative was finalized, someone tried to tie in the purpose of the diamond to the Golden Grain Casino heist. This was obviously ridiculous, as the drill is a plasma cutter with no drill bit. Wordsmiths found somewhat of a use for the diamond in the end, but these writing inconsistencies are still a huge frustration for me. Moving even deeper, there was a theory going around at the release of the Payday Christmas Carol that Ulf Andersson, voice of Wolf, damaged his throat during the recording of his more challenging lines for that video. It was said that the damage was so bad he couldn't reprise his role, hence Wolf's future splice lines. We know this is completely false, but you can see how someone might believe you do some vocal cord damage with Ulf's style. President Bane refers to the secret ending of Payday 2 where you successfully revive Bane's consciousness within the body of the US president. Yes, that's something that can be done in the Payday world, and the iconic "Let's do this" was Overkill's way of confirming it. The Black Dozer's old shotgun was still a variant of the ISMA, but with drum mags. This was quickly changed to the straight mags used by players after the community requested the same drum type be added, and Overkill stated engine difficulties prevented their addition for players at the time. The Trollface lawsuit threat was a strange period in Payday's history. This was another Crime Fest 2015 controversy, with Carlos Ramirez's representatives reportedly threatening to take legal action against the publisher for their newly added bait face mask, which was of course designed to resemble the Trollface meme. What's stranger is that a version of this mask already existed in Payday the Heist, so when Overkill responded by removing the bait face mask and replacing it with the Funny Man, they were also forced to do so in Payday the Heist, a game which hadn't seen an update in over 3 years. Hoxton's prison, having arts and crafts, is another funny one. He was of course already carrying his new Payday 2 mask when we broke him out on the way to court, meaning it had come from within the prison grounds. I've always assumed that he was able to smuggle it in or had it made within the prison thanks to the prison economy of barter and favours, but this Iceberg suggests that he made it himself in the arts and crafts faculty. Definitely not a suspicious thing for a convicted armed robber to be doing. Matt Roscoe is an interesting character, and this secret suggests maybe he was more connected to the Kitaru than we first assume. At the very least, he knows of them and he understands they're dangerous. Locke even refers to him as an agent of the unknown organisation they're looking for in Heat Street, of course full well knowing it's likely the Kitaru at this point. Roscoe himself knows of Kento, but I've always assumed he was more involved with the surface level Murky Water branch rather than the secret Kitaru proper. According to the asset naming convention, Hoxton Revenge was originally intended to be a Day 3 of the Hoxton Breakout saga. I'm generally happy to see Overkill went about this a little differently in the end. The heist would have been a 40-minute plus bloat fest as a 3-day experience, and the wait in between the Breakout and the Revenge added a ton of suspense before we eventually found the identity of the rat. The yacht heist, when it was eventually released in Wick's Heist Pack, had been a long time coming. We'd seen text strings referring to a yacht heist appearing all the way back in Payday the Heist game files, seemingly cut content never to see the light of day. There is however evidence to suggest that some of these strings were recycled and used in the eventual version of the heist we received, so a pretty strong revival if you ask me. Don't get me started on the old stealth mechanics. I've spent a lot of time with them on my revisit to Payday 2. Yes, many things were easier, with guard domination being completely overpowered and allowing you to control the entire heist in stealth without using any pages. However, silencers didn't fully function and detection was wacky. Definitely an alien experience for modern day stealthers. PDG-chan is another one that's a little over my head. It's the mascot of the old Payday 4chan forums, which took the appearance of a personified heister in the likeness of the iconic Kawaii mask from Payday 2. Not really my world. Here's another one from the aptly named Payday Circle Jerk Reddit, who did in fact come up with Houston's post-Hoxton Breakout name prior to its in-game addition. Now, Overkill may have already decided to name him this independently, with the Houston-Dallas connection and the setup for the Houston we have a problem jokes, but I'm sure the subreddit claims full credit for his proud title. The Dreaming Temple is one I've already alluded to from the Lovecraftian connection, but as us lore fanatics know, one of the 4 sealed temples connected to the Ark of the Watcher and the power to reincarnate was found in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right where the sleeping city of Arlier was said to lie. I'm ready for my Cthulhu boss fight now, Overkill. Hoxton's real name is Bodhi, except it probably isn't. We've just been through the fact that his legal name is likely James Hawksworth. However, this theory came from a brief and admittedly confusing excerpt from the Merry Payday Christmas album. As you can hear, Hawks' lawyer goes to call him something different.
So, Mr. Bo...
Hoxton. I've told you to just call me Hoxton.
Starting with B.O., which many fans assumed was Bodhi, given the previous pool repair connection from the first game. I'd argue the evidence for his first name being James is much greater, but at least at some point in development, Overkill were toying with a completely different name for Hawks. Firestarter Day 1, like Mall Crasher, is a completely stealthable heist which looks impossible at the outset. So much so it's become a bit of a calling card for the most dedicated stealthers in the game. Overkill didn't even anticipate it being possible when they programmed the mission to go loud as soon as a gang member was alerted, meaning there are no stealth bonuses for completing the heist this way. For those of you who love to cook on Hotline Miami Day 1, you can force 4 sets of chemicals to spawn if you follow a specific pattern when opening the crates in the basement. This one's actually pretty useful and worth learning. Bags did used to leak money when penetrated by bullets in an early test build of Payday 2, as confirmed by Overkill mod Ashley. Bag weight was a more important concept back then, so as you lost value, you actually gained mobility, meaning the punishment was met with some potential advantages for the player. This was scrapped since the intensity of Payday 2 gunfights made it difficult to keep any loot intact on harder difficulties. The Moscone 12-gauge shotgun was one of the best and most expensive weapon options available at launch. It was also a monster of a weapon due to its sniper-like stats. Not only did it benefit from Payday's odd pellet damage mechanic, it always fired one pellet in a perfectly straight line from the center of the screen, functionally making it a one-shotting sniper early in the game's lifespan. The final heist is literally stealing the White House and the USA. Yep, we've already established that Bane is now the president. The goal of this, achieved by completing the secret successfully, was to dictate the immediate decisions of the United States and point it in a direction Bane considered more just. Not to mention, pardon his crew. As such, the Payday gang really did steal the most powerful office on Earth. Finally, for Tier 5, we have the fact that heisters can lift over 400 pounds. This is, it's not canon information, instead it's a vague calculation based on the heaviest loadout a heister could equip, yet still move around in. The ICTV, minigun, RPG, a filled body bag or priceless artifact, not to mention all the ammo involved, in total likely weighs more than 400 pounds and can still be carried athletically across vast distances. This is video game logic at its finest though, so don't read into it. We don't see the gang performing feats of superhuman strength in any of the live action set pieces, so just assume it's for your entertainment only. We're getting into the depths of the iceberg now with the Payday 2 Tournament Edition. During the Hype Train event, Payday Esports was touted as a future goal of the Overkill crew, with increasingly large prize pools being offered at LAN events for a speedrunning format of the game. Tournaments were held on a fixed tournament build of the game with standardized RNG for the Slaughterhouse Heist, with more planned for a version of Hotston Breakout in the future. Sadly, there was no real value or future in this from Overkill's perspective, so the tournaments were canned before the larger prize pools went on offer. The secret special spawn table is all hearsay until it isn't when the heist spawn 17 minigun dozes on top of you to ruin your day. I've heard people suggest that this was a system designed to overload a heist with additional special types to theme each experience. Back in the day, this was referred to like it was a well-known fact, but as far as I know, this has never been proven and doesn't seem to be so prevalent these days. Cop spawn patterns are randomized, and sometimes you just get unlucky on the RNG front. The meth formula is salt water. I mean, Overkill didn't want kids going out and trying to break bad with their drug production instructions, did they? Combining the compound's formulas, we have NaCl plus H2O, also known as salt and water. Both endings being canon is a really interesting theory which I haven't explored on the channel. It basically posits that neither ending needs to be exclusive. We could have completed the secret, inserted Bane's consciousness into the president, but grabbed the pardons in the process. Thus President Bane was able to legally pardon the crew, who went off to Mexico to solemnly bury Bane's original body, as well as their criminal identities. After this, some chose to celebrate their freedom by holidaying on a remote South American beach, tuning in to their new president's first national address. Personally, I don't think that this is what Overkill wanted you to infer, and the Kotaru text which states that Bane the Watcher has fallen seems to imply that this really is a bad ending. But hey, it's not implausible. Bile's secret, on the other hand, is a super cool fact from back in the day. Basically, whilst the community was working together to solve the original Overdrill secret, one canny heister was on a different trail. Following a set of clues which told him to contact a Mr. Anderson, he emailed Bo Anderson himself, receiving a surprise response from Mr. Wilson, the neighbour from Counterfeit, asking if he wanted to become a helicopter pilot. And the rest is history. Pilot Bile was born from the alias of this intrepid community member. The In Limbo Scarface remake is referencing a modern Scarface remake which has been in stop-start production since before Payday 2's Scarface DLC was launched. In fact, I'm pretty sure the DLC we got was originally intended to be a movie tie-in before the film deal fell through. Fortunately, Overkill were able to release what ended up being a kind of unexpected crossover, given that it had limited promotional relevance. However, when the remake was given a medic bag once again in 2020, Overkill were forced to pull the DLC from retail due to lacking the licensing rights. At least that's what has been theorized by fans and seems highly probable. Let's just hope Scarface gets another day in the sun for all those Payday players who no longer have access to Kingpin as a result. The fired death screams come across as a theory which sounds like a dodgy creepypasta. In essence, it's just complimenting the amazing voice work the VA team did with the death screams of enemy units when killed by fire damage. The implication being that maybe Overkill used real pain screams to achieve this effect, but we all know that it was just some stellar voice work performed with some robust vocal cords. The Baldwin coding flag in Harvest and Trusty Bank is not referring to any physical flag, but an internally coded flag which is set to active after spelling out Baldwin with the letters organising the Harvest and Trusty Bank deposit boxes. Of course, this doesn't do anything and was likely a scrapped element of the initially designed Payday 2 secret, but did fuel rumours at the time that there was a hidden vault in the classic bank heist. The ancient heister theory is one that fans of this channel should be familiar with. The Age heister masks hidden in the art container on Henry's Rock have no known meaning, although I've theorized that it points to the Payday narrative being a cyclical one, with similarly masked heroes cropping up in the past to thwart the Kataru before now. Another fantastic theory mentioned here suggests that a Sumerian oracle predicted that the group wearing these masks would change the course of the world, hence the dentist's obsession with finding this heisting gang in modern day, inadvertently setting into motion the events that would lead to his downfall at the crew's hands. Cloakers having guns is a pretty self-evident one, and I'm surprised to see it all the way down here. Although I can see how frequent online players can easily forget that Cloakers go into battle with loaded ballistics, since it's their kicks that are the real weapons. As a big time solo player, I'm used to getting shot by their fairly weak compat 5s. Don't Look at the Titan Dozer refers to the old Safehouse Nightmare strategy used to pacifist your way through the event heist. When the Headless Titan Dozers were added, there was a quirk in their coding, meaning that they'd only engage crew members who looked directly at them. AFKing in the corner never seemed so tempting. Malicious Carrot's disappearance is an odd one to have on this list. Malicious Carrot was a Payday-orientated content creator who made meme-orific Payday 2 shorts before seemingly disappearing from the internet and taking his content with him. This left many in the community pretty damn confused, but fear not, we'll get to his return later on. The secret symbol on the biker heist was another unresolved lead assumedly geared towards solving the big Payday 2 secret. It's an oddly shaped, unique texture which can be found on top of this cement structure, the meaning of which is still unknown, although the same symbol is found on the back of the Curse One mask, which is heavily linked to the diamond and by extension the secret of the Kataru. I'd love to have some closure on this thread. Again, if you've made it through the 4 hours of Payday's story, you should know that Hector was the initial buyer of the Mayan gold from Overdrill. Bane's message to the community after solving Overdrill mentions Hector by name, long before his eventual appearance as a contractor in Payday 2. I wonder if Overkill had him in mind as a traitorous rat from the get-go. The negative detection on the Arkansas toothpick refers to a briefly glitched melee weapon this time around. Again, Overkill didn't leave it in this state for long, but in late 2015, a missing integer along the way led to the toothpick melee being given a negative value for concealment, which defaulted to it providing 230 points of total concealment. This meant that even the most armoured and heavily armed build could hit minimum detection risk and take on stealth with ease. The Last Stand cannon connection is another Left 4 Dead related fact which has snuck its way onto the Payday Iceberg. This is referring to the Valve approved campaign mod which told of an alternate Last Stand ending to the game. Within this mod we can read graffiti stating, "First I robbed the White House, now there's an apocalypse, what's next?" Which sounds all too familiar to the Payday gang. Maybe that serum was a green flu sample after all, it was just a little slow acting. Of course, this is all pretty tenuous, even if the lighthouse's location is confirmed to be canon by the Left 4 Dead 2 campaign. We're into the real murky depths of Payday now, so buckle up. First up, to set the scene, how about the commissar being 2 bulldozers in a trench coat? More than anything, this is just a funny interaction with the boss-type enemies and the Hydra modifier. Kill him or other bosses such as Hector with the modifier turned on, and you'll be met with 2 bulldozers in their place. Always a fun sight. We also get a happy ending to the malicious carrot story, who does in fact stream over on Twitch and produce content with Sir Crackable over on YouTube. No elaborate disappearances here. Manipulating spawns with AI with a bad CPU was not something I'd put past the Diesel engine, but was surprised to learn about it here. Basically, spawn and AI logic is dictated by the CPU of the host, so if a friend somehow gets Payday running on a potato, expect the game to be pretty easy for everyone else in the lobby, with limited spawns and cop reaction speeds. Duke is not a time traveler, but it's certainly a fun theory worth delving into if you haven't already. I have a whole game theory inspired video going through this theory you can check out, but the short version is that the letter penned by August Lindenhurst in 1905 was Duke's work, seeing as his real name is also August Lindenhurst. That means that the body found in Shacklethorne is actually Duke, and we're dealing with some sort of time travel, split reality sort of situation. Of course, this is all debunked by the simple fact that Duke himself confirms that he was named after the August Lindenhurst who wrote that letter, as he was a close friend to Duke's own family. In fact, the letter is written to Duke's own grandfather, so no, Duke's just a guy with an intimate knowledge of Illuminati-esque secret societies. No big deal. White Chains is, well, you can see for yourself. It's just a color palette bug with the Vlad armor mask. Definitely unintended. As you can see at this point, these are secrets because there's no reason to know this information. The next one, Medic Drones, exemplifies this. Way back on the Steam forums, a user went on a bit of a tirade about how Payday 2 would benefit from revived drones to avoid Inspire being such a staple skill. Not a crazy suggestion, but one that was shot down, leading to a slightly volatile exchange one way or another. Really not big news. The animated series being real, however, is something we'd all like to hear and be able to believe. Harry Partridge was behind the brilliant April Fool's animation, paired with the catchy track, It's Payday, and giving off Saturday morning cartoon vibes. I'm sure actual short episodes would have been a huge hit. It was rumoured that there were discussions about expanding it beyond an elaborate April Fool's joke, but nothing has ever materialised. Every lobby being a split reality is a new one to me. It's referring to the wonders of Payday 2 desync, another quirk of our friend Diesel, I believe. The point being made here is that with desync, it's possible for the client and host to see different things, but all players to experience the host reality. For instance, when ragdolling a corpse, it may end up in a different place depending on desync. As such, we end up in a Schrodinger's heist situation where stealth is both maintained and broken simultaneously. In the client player's eye, nothing is wrong, but to the host there is a camera about to spot the misplaced body. Not quite as dramatic as the title makes it sound, but yeah, it's more like split perceptions of one reality if we were getting real existential here. And the strange secrets keep rolling in, with Rust being reportedly trans. This is maybe the largest logical stretch I've ever encountered. Basically, Rust throwing axe has the mercury alchemical symbol on it, which is a symbol commonly associated with transgendered people. The thing is, the alchemists and their symbolism are actually heavily linked to the Payday storyline. Even Borwin's Lament and its power of longevity seems to be associated with the Philosopher's Stone and the alchemists. So seeing a symbol like this here is not a big surprise. I'm more inclined to believe it has more to do with Mercury being the reagent associated with a transition between life and death, something Rust provides regularly with these throwing axes. Vlad being the third king, on the other hand, is something that I 100% get behind. The crazy Ukrainian knows far too much and is too involved with the Gitaru at this point to not be a major player here. Hell, he even provides us with the diamond in the end. I'm positive that Vlad is the scribe king who abandoned his duties in the 1900s, a theory which is given even more credence when we hear Bane refer to Sputnik, Vlad's nickname, in the same breath as the dentist and the elephant. Not to mention the dentist himself tells us to send his regards to Kozak. He's a king, but he's our king, so we don't mind. The Unsolved Undercover secret refers to a continued community belief that Undercover still holds some pivotal secrets, at least to the originally planned secret ARG Overkill were working on as they printed the Guide of Bane. I'm not sure there's anything to this, but there have been extensive investigations of the heist with limited evidence that anything was ever missed. Bain's statement in the guide was that there was something wrong with the Undercover job and potentially Washington DC, which could mean anything. In my opinion, it was alluding to the secret culmination at the White House, which had been planned from day one, even if how we got there was very different in the end. But who knows, maybe Undercover still hides something from us all these years later. If you're an FBI files enthusiast such as myself, you'll know all about the crew's extensive list of crimes being well documented. They even got us for what we did on the Goat Simulator heist. But you may have missed that they're also wanted for jaywalking and littering, which is a crime too far for me. The cut suicide bomb vests are a seriously dark secret from early in Payday 2's playable history. In one particular screenshot, we could see how the Payday gang were realistically converting Jokered cops to fight for them. Suicide vests were strapped to their chests, meaning they were coerced a little more forcefully at that point in development. Whilst it makes more logical sense than the purely mechanical system we have in game now, it was probably a bridge too far within the relatively light-hearted franchise. Last Bullet's real 10k heist is another can of worms I'd rather not dive headfirst into. As ever, when information is light, I'd rather stay on the periphery. Basically, Last Bullet, a group that I had a promotional relationship with back in the day, were given a $10,000 grant by Overkill to support the development of the budding mod scene for Payday 2. It's claimed that this money may have never seen its intended use after the group splintered, with dedicated and honest members rebranding as the now fantastic Mod Workshop. No idea on this one, not my place to wade in. Support Mod Workshop though, they rock. The original Payday 2 secret really refers to the secret that was envisioned but we never got. Functionally, the main secret related campaigns can be split into 2 seasons. The build up with the dentist heist and the conclusion with Locke's Kitaru based heist. They are both integral to the eventual narrative, but I'm positive they were designed separately and tailored such that the original secret plans could be adapted into the eventual secret. Overkill pulled it off almost flawlessly in my opinion, but I'd give a lot to know exactly what their original plan was with the dentist and his secret society. Moving on to a truly mind-blowing statement, apparently Payday is the keystone that connects all fictional media. As we know, crossovers are canon in Payday 2, so John Wick, Scarface, Reservoir Dogs, Left 4 Dead, it's all there within this universe. If we extend that understanding, that means their alternate appearances and shared universes are canon too. With more mainstream characters such as Wick, via the Fortnite connection, Payday is immediately connected to a plethora of fictional worlds. This theory is essentially predicated on the 6 degrees of separation theory, except instead of social connections, it's Payday's connection to every entertainment media release ever. Payday 2 is the true multiverse of fiction which holds up all others. Hell, it even has Kknowley. Well, there was some odd ones at the end there. Fortunately, that does it for the massive Payday Iceberg. I hope I've done a good job of explaining all there is to know about these Payday mysteries, and you've enjoyed hearing my own interpretations of some of the more obscure and strange factoids out there. Big shout out again to VeggieBLT on the Payday the Heist subreddit for putting this iceberg together, and remember, don't take everything in this video too seriously. Some of the facts are intended to be tongue-in-cheek, but even so, I hope you've learned something new. I'm going to head off now on a brand new challenge run, so for now... Wait, hang on, I missed one? Oh, it's Dollars from the Paycheck Gang. He's saying... Oh, the Beta Boys. I knew I could never escape this one. This is the sound of our Lord and Savior, Texan Medic Bagman.
Keep them hands visible. Put them up now. Dallas is down.
As ever, thank you very much to my Mean Infamy patrons and above. If you want to join that infamous club to see yourself in the credits or get early exclusive access to my videos, including the story videos, check out my Patreon link below. Remember, the Discord is open to all if you crave some more Payday discussion. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all very soon for the next one.